ADHD and supplements and stimulant medication. So a couple of you probably noticed that I like talking about supplements, and I like using supplements to help me out with the condition that I have. I also like to share it with a lot of people. Because guess what? A lot of people end up using stimulant medication, and what ends up happening is that they get side effects. Stimulant medication commonly causes side effects to some people, but what people don't know is that there are supplements to help counteract those side effects, to help eliminate them, diminish them, etc., etc. And unfortunately, a lot of psychiatrists and psychologists don't really talk about that. Not because they don't want to, but because they don't know. A lot of this research and finding has come out within the last 10 or 15 years. And you got to realize a lot of these psychiatrists have gotten their degrees, you know, maybe 20 years ago. Maybe back in the 90s, mid-80s, maybe something even before that. So, a lot of this information is new. It's fresh. It's not really being, you know, being really told. And not because of negligence, but just because a lot of the time the information isn't really, you know, prevalent. And sometimes it might not be prevalent because supplements still have this Eastern stigma, per se. They're perceived to be, what's the phrase? It's pseudoscience. And ladies and germs, I have nothing but the utmost respect for supplements. I do not look at them as an Eastern pseudo thing. Supplements have greatly helped me out with the condition that I have and have tremendously helped me improve my life for the better. And they can certainly do that to you, your family member, or your friend. So, whether you're taking stimulant medication or not, and you have ADHD, or whether you're not taking medication or not for your ADHD and just want to try supplements by themselves, I would advise both of those people to take it. Supplements. A lot of people take them. You don't have to have ADHD to take them. Athletes take them. People who are in high-ranking officials in business take them. All sorts of people. So, supplements help out the brain and the body in areas that, you know, we sometimes lack in, whether it be for genetics, accidents, whatever life seems to throw our way. So why not give it a try, especially if the research has shown that it's going to be beneficial and there is little to no risk. So the research is out there, folks. So if you're a little scared, you know, I recommend you go and look it up. Good website, by the way, by the name of, pardon me, ncbi.com, ncbi.com. Link below. There are thousands, hundreds of peer-reviewed articles on there, scientific peer-reviewed articles that give all sorts of information. I spend a lot of time there on other databases when I do my research, and I've gotten quite a bit of information and research out of NCBI these last 4+ years, so very helpful website. Highly recommend if you want to check out. So anyway, so before we talk about supplements, we got to talk about the areas that are affected by the lack of these neurotransmitters. So we got to get familiar with a neurotransmitter. Okay. I'm reading off from my book, by the way, which is available now on Amazon.com. Cheap plug. It's called Outlier of Outliers. My Life with Inattentive ADHD. It's a book that entails my struggles with, mainly wrote the biographical part, so parents who have children or family members or friends who have inattentive ADHD, they can get a good picture of what it's like to live life with inattentive ADHD and not be diagnosed. The book is partly biographical. It's also huge part self-help. There are nutritional guides and supplement guides, medication guides. I talk about how to go through the diagnosis process, who you're going to see, what's going to happen, the different types of stimulant medications that there are, and a bunch of other interesting things that are not really out there in terms of the ADHD information. I've read a couple of ADHD books myself just to reassure myself that I'm not just repeating the same hoopla. Excuse me, it's not hoopla. It's help. You know what I mean. To not repeat the same thing. Because what the crap for? If somebody else already said it, especially in a much sexier manner than I'm going to say it, what the hell am I going to say it again? You know what I mean? Especially with this ugly mug. I'm just joking. But anyway, there's a lot of information in the book out there that I haven't really seen anywhere else, especially on the inattentive subtype of ADHD, because there's very little information out there. And people with inattentive ADHD are, like myself, are radically different from our combined type and hyperactive counterparts. So, going on to neurotransmitters. And this chapter comes, and this section comes from chapter 3 in my book, entitled Neurotransmitters and Supplements. And I quote, "Neurotransmitters are chemicals the brain makes. In simple terms, our brain has neurons that, through a neural circuit network, fire off and receive neurotransmitters through branch-like mechanisms called axons and dendrites. Electrical impulses trigger activity amongst neurons. Extremely basic explanation, and much more goes on with neurochemistry. Our body is filled with millions of neural pathways that all serve a different function. Some of the major neurotransmitters people with ADHD lack are dopamine, a neurotransmitter in the brain that affects your levels of concentration, motivation, pleasure senses, and sense of pain. And over here, if you look down the picture, you'll see what the rest of them do. And folks, unfortunately, we got trouble with all of these. So we got low levels of all this, including B12. So that brings with it quite a bit of problems. So stimulant medication is really helpful if you have ADHD. But stimulant medication has been shown to primarily work with dopamine and norepinephrine. What about the rest of the SAPs? What about the rest of the neurotransmitters we need help with? Serotonin, acetylcholine, GABA, B12? Well, B12 is not a neurotransmitter per se. Low levels of that do still affect this greatly. Believe me, B12 is a game changer. So anyway, stimulant medication only works with dopamine and norepinephrine, primarily. So what about the other ones? That still leaves us with a lot of trouble in the other areas that these neurotransmitters would otherwise be helping us out in if we had higher levels of them. So what's the best thing to do is to take a supplement for each of those neurotransmitters that we have low levels of. So the plan of action would be to take a supplement for serotonin, a supplement for acetylcholine, another supplement for GABA, and another supplement for B12. Interestingly enough, there are certain supplements that knock out two birds with one stone, or get two birds stoned at once, if you know the phrase. So anyway, and guess what, folks? We don't only got trouble with that. We got trouble also with our short-term memory. How many times someone with ADHD has been told something, a name of somebody, or a direction of something, and then within 3 seconds we completely forget what the person said? I've been introduced to thousands of people. They tell me their name, 2 seconds later, what was that person's name again? There you go. You tell me directions to somewhere, no, I'll need to write it down because I'm not going to remember. Our long-term memory is good, but our short-term memory sucks, which makes school a nightmare. So there's a supplement to increase, or better stated, a supplement to improve short-term memory. And there's also a supplement to help out with the issues of sleep. So not only a matter of helping out the ones that you see here, but we also got to help other neurotransmitters that are essentially correlated. Let me make an interesting little note about serotonin. Now, serotonin, these neurotransmitters, not just serotonin, all of them have few or multiple other precursors that eventually become the neurotransmitter that we're talking about here, the set of ones that we're talking about. So you're probably wondering, well, there's a lot of options if I want to help out serotonin. What if I want to get SAM-E? What if I want to get 5-HTP? Or what if I want to get, who knows what else? So, if you look at the chain of precursors that become serotonin, you're going to see other neurotransmitters that, interestingly enough, are also sold as supplements. Probably asking yourself, okay, how come the one you are particularly, advising us to take would be the most suitable one? And my answer would be, according to my research, I've seen that the most helpful and bioactive supplement for serotonin is the supplement L-tryptophan. This has to do particularly with the particular gene transference. There's issues that we have in a lot of transfer areas of neurotransmitters, that we get a little loss of the level of the neurotransmitter. There's a lot of issues in gene mutation and in transportation of the specific neurotransmitter. And if you notice something particular about the dopamine neurotransmitter, there are 5 different dopamine receptors. We seem to have issues with the 4th one, according to some of the research that I've seen. So B12 seems to have a similar issue as well in terms of its a transporter issue. So just imagine this way. Imagine a truck driving cargo and dropping off at another truck station, and then that truck driver goes and takes that transportation over to another place. Imagine it this way. One truck driver has some cargo, he or she drives, they go drop it off at another truck station, another trucker, loads it up and takes it. So imagine that some of the goods, or the produce, or whatever it is this metaphorical example is making you think of, imagine that of which they're taking just lessens each time. For whatever reason, just a little bit of it is left. So by the time it gets to the destination, the goal destination, where it's supposed to get to, not much of it is going to arrive. And that's going to affect the brain and you in a really, really dramatic way. So, very interesting. There's still a lot of research left to do on what ADHD does. This is just where we're at currently at the moment. Not the final destination. And by the way, those Final Destination movies, for any of you who have seen them, those movies are a little redonkulous, so to speak. But anyways, I digress. Sorry, the inattentive ADHD makes me a little kooky sometimes. But anyway, though, going on. Another interesting tidbit to make is that if you keep increasing dopamine, so let's say, for example, you take your medication, your stimulant medication like you're supposed to, and it just brings up dopamine and norepinephrine. What happens in the brain is that dopamine and serotonin are the brain's reward system. So, from the research I've done, if you keep increasing dopamine and neglecting to increase serotonin, your dopamine levels are going to drop. And vice versa, you keep increasing serotonin and not dopamine, your dopamine levels are going to drop. So, if you're continuing to take stimulant medication, you're going to notice a drop in serotonin, and that's not a good thing, because with stimulant medication it can make you a bit tense, and that's not good, especially in the long term. So you're definitely going to want to help yourself out, help the brain out with a little serotonin boost and also a dopamine boost. So because what happens is a lot of people report losing the effectiveness of the medication. They say, I don't feel the medication like the way I used to. It's not helping me out like it does. And that's because, if you keep increasing certain neurotransmitters for a while, there's going to be a little bit of depletion, which is the reason why people report the medication not working like the way it used to. So what happens is they go to the doc, psychiatrist, hey doc, med's not working as much, and what do? They increase the medication. And it's unfortunate because sometimes the increase, whether it's a 5 milligram increase or a 10 milligram increase, can bring with itself a lot of new problems. The body and the brain has a therapeutic dose, meaning that that's the dose that biologically works with that person. Now, if you were to increase that just a bit more, that's where more problems can come by. So in order to avoid that issue and avoid having to increase the stimulant medication milligrams, what you can do is you can take supplements in order to help that out. Another common, very common problem I've seen with a lot of families reporting is the issue with stimulant medication wearing off and then feeling a sense of anger, of sadness. I've heard this a lot from parents complaining about their kids once their medication wears off, that they get really intense, really moody and fidgety and irritable, or they get sad. And it breaks a lot of these parents' hearts, and my heart goes out to them. So what you can definitely do to avoid that is to take a supplement that will help you increase dopamine and norepinephrine. So those are just some interesting little tidbits and facts. Now let's get to the heavy-duty work. Number 1 on the list, dopamine. Dopamine, neurotransmitter of the brain that affects your levels of concentration, motivation, pleasure, senses, and sense of pain. So, neurotransmitter is quite important. Now, I'm going to jumble this one up with norepinephrine. These two work together. So, norepinephrine is a neurotransmitter and stress hormone that deals with attentiveness, emotions, impulse control, planning ahead, sleep, and most importantly, in my opinion, interpreting actions of others. For my other video, if you've seen, I speak about how I am in agreement with the theory, the hunter and gatherer theory of ADHD. How our actions, meaning how we interpret other people's actions, a lot of the time, a lot of people with the condition, they interpret a lot of things negatively, as if they're being threatened or there's going to be some really bad negative consequence. So, lack of norepinephrine can for sure contribute to that. Same thing with acetylcholine, which I'll get to later. So, the supplement I highly recommend for dopamine and norepinephrine is a supplement N-acetyltyrosine. N-acetyltyrosine has been such a helpful supplement for me. A supplement that I wish I would have had back when I was in school. Actually, a supplement I wish I had throughout all of school. To me, since it works, since N-acetyltyrosine works with dopamine and norepinephrine, it is like a miniature, like a junior version of stimulant medication, in my opinion. I take it 3 times a day, and it really helps me to get up and go. It gives me that get up and going feeling. It helps me focus. It helps me motivate. It just gets me up and going. It's a great supplement, and it's a great supplement to take 30 minutes to an hour before stimulant medication wears off. It completely, in my experience and from what I've heard from other people, it completely takes away the crash, that negative feeling that comes when the medication wears off. It helps out with that greatly, so I highly recommend it. Next, we have serotonin. So for serotonin, we see that it's a neurotransmitter that deals with mood regulation, sleep, nervousness, apathy, appetite, digestion, and sexual urges. So serotonin is a neurotransmitter that is really an issue for people who are combined and hyperactive. Don't get me wrong, inattentive types, we have an issue with that as well, most certainly. But I noticed that there's lower levels of this in a good amount of combined types and hyperactive types. The supplement I would recommend for this, and that my studies have indicated to me is of the optimal serotonin, boost, is L-tryptophan. L-tryptophan to me has been a really big game changer where it comes to serotonin. Really helpful supplement, and really helps out with mood, and really helps out with sleep, and just helps you relax. And for the hyperactive and combined types who are really fidgety, feel kind of tense and always like they need to be on the move, it relaxes them. it puts the body just a bit more at ease. Now, just imagine now, you're taking N-acetyltyrosine and L-tryptophan. You're already knocking out a good foundation of the things that are most troubling to the ADHD brain. So, combining L-tryptophan with a melatonin supplement would be really helpful with sleep, because let's face it, the ADHD population, yeah, we're known for having a lot of trouble with sleep. Before, I tell people, who the hell just goes to sleep? It just seems like the most boring thing in the world. I'm going to go to sleep. Like, I don't know. To me, since I'm an inattentive type, it would take me 3 hours sometimes to go to sleep, sometimes an hour, sometimes 4 hours, sometimes more than that. Unfortunately, it's because of lack of serotonin. Serotonin in the chain itself eventually becomes melatonin, another neurotransmitter whose location we want to eventually end up at in the chain. Melatonin really helps out with sleep. So, ex post facto, you got little levels of serotonin. Guess what? You're going to have little levels of melatonin as well. And sleeping is going to be quite the issue. So, with serotonin and our supplement of choice, L-tryptophan, I would also add melatonin in there. I would particularly advise to take 300 micrograms of melatonin. Now, why such a small dosage? Why not milligrams? Now, let me explain why. In most markets you go to, you're going to notice that you're going to see melatonin. And when you see the letters mg, that stands for milligrams. Smaller unit of measurement that I'm advising is micrograms. That's mcg. Okay? And the reason why is because when melatonin was synthesized, it was synthesized with 300 micrograms in mind. This was in the mid part of the 20th century, maybe a little bit earlier, from what I recall. Something I studied 4 or 5 years ago. So interestingly enough, when melatonin was synthesized, it was synthesized with that unit of measurement. And the type I get particularly is a 6-hour timed release, meaning that the pineal gland of the brain is going to be releasing or secreting melatonin in different doses throughout the night. You're not going to get it all at once like you do with a lot of the market name melatonin brands. So it's really good. It helps out with a good deep sleep. You combine melatonin with tryptophan right before you go to sleep. You're going to get yourself a heck of a cocktail to go into a peaceful amount of sleep. I take melatonin about 20 minutes before I knock out, and then I'll take tryptophan maybe about 15 minutes, so 5 minutes after the melatonin, and it is quite the inducer to go to sleep. And once that L-tryptophan kicks in, which for me it takes maybe 20 to 40 minutes sometimes, depending on I guess what I've eaten earlier in the day. Yeah, once that tryptophan kicks in, your body's going to feel it, man. And then you're going to be able to find that sweet spot, or a lot of other spots and angles in your bed are going to become the sweet spot, and you're going to be able to just knock out in peace. Lord Almighty, I really wish I would have had L-tryptophan and melatonin when I was in elementary school, and middle school and high school and early college. As a little kid, I remember sleeping or trying to sleep 4 hours there, and I couldn't go to sleep. I'd go to school the next day feeling horrible. Because when you don't sleep enough, these neurotransmitters that we're talking about here, their levels are even lower than usual. And we already have low levels of these neurotransmitters to begin with. So imagine not sleeping enough. What happens is some of those neurotransmitters are going to have lower levels, and you're going to have trouble with even more things at that point. And that was almost an everyday occurrence for me, and unfortunately an everyday occurrence for a lot of children, teenagers, and adults all around the world. That's something I want to help change, because people, we don't deserve to go through that. Someone with the condition deserves to have access to the help that they need. And I advise you guys to, if you see this video, you got other family members or friends or whomever, the in-laws too, why not throw them in there? Share this with them. Share this video, this knowledge. I don't care. You don't have to talk about me if you don't want to, but share the information. It's gonna really make a big difference. Okay? We gotta help our ADHD brethren family out over here. So, next supplement we have acetylcholine, a neurotransmitter that deals with muscle contraction, pain responses, mood regulation, REM sleep, and coordination. Acetylcholine is a whole game changer. For me, what I started taking for this is I found a double whammy for this. I found a supplement that is considered one of the strongest antioxidant supplements out there. R-alpha lipoic acid. Huge when it comes to antioxidants. And if you're consuming, or if you know someone who's consuming stimulant medication, stimulant medication produces a lot of oxidation. Oxidation is not good for the body or the brain. So what happens is that you need to try to lessen that as much as you can through antioxidants. So R-alpha lipoic acid is really going to help you out. And the cool thing is R-alpha lipoic acid also helps out greatly with acetylcholine. This supplement has mellowed me out like no other. Acetylcholine has been a game changer. It has mellowed me out and has smoothened out a lot of aspects of my mood when I wouldn't be in a good mood otherwise. And it's also really helpful for the movement, kinesiology, the muscle contraction, the pain. There's been a lot of things that I haven't done or I do in a weird sort of way because my body feels these aches and pains when I do it. And it just feels really uncomfortable. Even though I do yoga and I work out, it still feels really uncomfortable because I naturally had low levels of acetylcholine. But once I started taking R-alpha lipoic acid, man, it just knocked all that crap out of the park. My threshold of pain when it came to, having to do certain things, yeah, it was improved greatly. I was able to do a lot more, and for those of you who have to do a lot of crazy cleaning and a lot of different angles that are uncomfortable, acetylcholine, an acetylcholine boost would be highly ideal. So R-alpha lipoic acid also helps you have REM sleep. Helps you to get a good amount of deep sleep. So guess what? We don't only have trouble with serotonin and melatonin. We also have trouble with reaching REM sleep. Now, when we reach REM sleep, we really need to go through a couple of stages before we get to REM sleep. REM sleep is a very deep stage of sleep. I talk about this more in detail in another one of the videos, but if you sleep a good amount of time and you don't get enough REM sleep, it's not going to matter. Your brain is not going to get, the reward and boost it needs in those other neurotransmitters if you don't get enough REM deep sleep. Okay? If you don't get enough REM sleep. You need to get that amount of deep sleep. Otherwise, there's going to be a lot of problems the next day. And I've had to take many exams and quizzes and whatnot on low levels of REM sleep, and it sucks, man, because it makes it even harder to focus and harder to use a lot of common sense. And if you haven't eaten right, forget about it. You're screwed. It's over. Well, it might not be over. I mean, you can still do it, but you're gonna have just a lot more trouble with it. So, and then we have B12. So, interestingly enough, B12 is taken to help treat memory loss and poor concentration. And even to boost your mood and energy levels. What does that sound like? Issues of memory, poor concentration to boost your mood and energy levels. And your libido as well. Levels of B12, you're not going to be in the mood a lot, so to speak. And it's going to bring a lot of trouble for the partner. So, yeah, B12 is no joke, man. It's also another game changer. B12 also helps out with the neurotransmitter GABA, which also deals with anxiety, sleep, and how relaxed or tense the body feels. So, there you go. Knock out two birds with one stone. Take B12. It'll help you out also with GABA. On to the next one. We also have issues with our short-term memory. Now, what to do with issues with our short-term memory? In this case, I would highly recommend the supplement PS100. PS100 helps out greatly with short-term memory and retaining that memory. It also helps out with fluidity of thought and connecting that with your speech. I'm guessing a lot of you with ADHD, or people who are watching this who don't have ADHD, probably know someone with the condition who has a lot of trouble connecting with their thinking with what they're saying. So, common ADHD problem. PS100, in my experience and in my research, has shown a lot of progress in that regard. So, I would highly recommend PS100 if you have trouble with that. And if you have ADHD, I highly recommend it anyway. And if you don't have ADHD, I also recommend it. It's a really good supplement that's going to help you out with that. PS100 is also a neuromodulator. Think of it as a drill sergeant that's going to make sure that the other neurotransmitters are doing what they're supposed to be doing and not overdoing or underdoing it. Then you're probably telling yourself, well, how come I can just take that and not take the rest then? It doesn't work like that, man. PS100 is going to work with what it has. So, you know what I mean? So if you're not taking the other things, it's going to be working with essentially like a bunch of roadies slacking off on the job and not helping the band set up the gear. If you don't understand that metaphor, get the flip off my page and get creative. I'm joking. But anyway, PS100, it works with what it has. So if your neurotransmitters, of the ones we spoke about, are low because of your condition, then it's going to work with low levels of those, and that's not going to really be much help. But if you're taking the other supplements and you're getting help in the other neurotransmitters that are low, and you include PS100 as well, well then right there you got quite the football team backing you up, so to speak. So PS100, highly recommend, especially for us who have issues with short-term memory. Another thing I recommend, this one's not really a supplement per se, but it does have very beneficial properties that will help out those of us with ADHD. So that is the consumption of matcha tea. Now matcha tea is essentially just green tea that's just been left out. When it's harvested, it's left out in the shade longer. It causes the L-theanine levels to increase. What are L-theanine levels? L-theanine is the calming agent in green tea. And interestingly enough, they also sell L-theanine as a supplement. And that's a supplement I use also before I work out, along with a few other supplements and things I take before I work out. Mainly just creatine. But anyway, I'm not talking about my workout here, but maybe another video some other time. But yes, matcha green tea has a high level of theanine. And what does theanine do? It increases our serotonin levels. It really helps relax the body as well. And it has the most antioxidants, or one of the most antioxidants of all teas. So another double whammy. So what I do with this tea is that I take these little strips of the tea. They sell them like that, just like in the picture. You put it into the water bottle. You get a tablespoon of MCT oil, which is derived from the coconut. And MCT oil, for those of you who don't know, is such a beneficial oil for many different reasons. For those of you who have heard of the butter coffee, they use MCT oil in that. MCT oil is a whole game changer, one of which I recently added to my diet. One of which I was taking way back in 2014 when I was taking Bulletproof coffee. And it was really helpful. Another thing I changed is I also started practicing a high-protein, low-carb diet, a keto diet, so to speak. And I have seen that it brings with it a lot of benefits to me, cognitively and physically. I feel my stamina has really increased, energy levels have really increased, and the thought fluidity is a lot faster. So I put in a tablespoon of that MCT oil into the water bottle with the matcha tea, and I just chugged the whole thing, and holy crap, quite the wake-up call. So really complements the medication. And for some of you, you might be wondering, isn't that going to kind of dilute the effectiveness of the medication because of the high amount of vitamin C? It can. It also depends on the brand of stimulant medication that you're taking. Unfortunately, at the moment, there is an ongoing court battle going on with a lot of the stimulant medication companies. And at the pharmacy I go to get my medication, the only type of stimulant medication they have available there is from the company BARR, BARR /Teva, TEVA, which in a lot of the forums I've read is very cheap, very cheap ingredients in that company. So I'm really hoping that the insurance companies get their act together so I can get my quality medication back again. Man, probably wondering yourself, I didn't know that was a thing. Yeah, the companies that make stimulant medication, they're the brand name ones and there are the generic kind. And sometimes the generic kind ones are not all that good. So it's good to have options. But sometimes when you don't have options, you just got to stick it out or find something to help you out with. But I digress. MCT oil, matcha tea, a new addition I've added to the supplement and vitamin regimen. And also really helpful for the gym too. Really helpful for the gym. Good for a pre-workout. I take this matcha tea with the MCT oil tablespoon, drink it, wait a good 15-10 minutes, and then take creatine, wait a few minutes then, and then jump into the workout and put some fast pumping heavy music on, and you'll be on your way, man. You're gonna be in the zone when you're working out. If you're not working out and you're taking stimulant medication and you have ADHD, get your butt to the gym. What are you doing? Being physically active and exercising is crucial when you have ADHD. This is something that's been brought up in my research over and over again. No matter where I go and what I read, exercise has an emphasis. Because we were not primarily sedentary people during our nomadic days. We were active people, even the inattentive types. So it's good to get a workout. The supplement scheduling is also quite important. So I'm going to leave a link in the description below where you can not only will you be able to see the different supplements I've mentioned, but I'm going to talk about where you can buy them, and there's going to be a good amount of information on each one, what they do exactly. And you're also going to see where it's available, how much it is, and a good amount of detail too. So I buy most of my stuff from Amazon. I'm a Prime member, and a lot of that stuff is sometimes $20 or $15 or $10 cheaper, and it's going to be at a lot of supermarkets and whatnot. So, and that basically goes for all of them, I believe, because all of them are available on Amazon, and all of them are also available at supermarkets. So sometimes because of conveniency or lack of time, I have to get them at the store, but you can get them either or. The cool thing is that they're available. So in that document too, towards the end, I talk about my particular schedule and how I schedule out the day and what I do with the supplements and when I take them. Because there is a very important art to when you take supplements. You don't just take them randomly throughout the day. The body and the bioavailability of supplements and the order that you take them is all crucially important. So I also want to reiterate other supplements that are not particularly helpful specifically for neurotransmitter increase, but more helpful for the fluidity and synchronicity of the body and the brain. And most importantly, synchronicity in terms of stimulant medication. And these are supplements that, in my opinion, are of mass importance if you're taking stimulant medication. Also, they're also important if you're not taking stimulant medication and you have ADHD. And these supplements are the following. We have flaxseed oil. Flaxseed oil helps out with the omegas, omega 3, 6, and 9. Those omega oils are essential for everybody, and they're especially beneficial if you have ADHD. And the reason I don't recommend fish oil is because there's a lot of mercury in fish oil and other toxins. And there also are organic alternatives as well, but what happens with me is if I take fish oil of any kind, or krill oil as well, which is another option, is I start breaking out. So I don't take fish oil. I take flaxseed oil instead. So you can choose one or the other in this regard, as long as you're getting a good amount of omegas 3, 6, and 9. You're going to want to get magnesium. I recommend buffered chelated magnesium because it's the most bioactive form of magnesium that I've come across in my research, and it makes quite a bit of a difference. It helps the body digest food and just helps the digestive system out greatly. And it's going to help your body digest the medication as well, the stimulant medication. It's going to help it digest in a much more smoother manner, especially when paired with flaxseed oil. And then, really important, I recommend CoQ10. It's coenzyme 10. Coenzyme 10 is an endogenous. The body makes it already, but with age, you're going to notice a decrease in coenzyme 10. So, CoQ10 also helps to maintain the body's blood pressure and your heart rate from increasing. It helps keep both of those things at a healthy level. If you're taking stimulant medication, unfortunately, it's highly common for both of those things to go up. So, for your safety, I highly recommend you take CoQ10, especially if you're taking stimulant medication. You want to keep your heart rate and blood pressure at a healthy level, and you don't want to go overboard. So, CoQ10, in my opinion, it should be lawfully obligated for psychiatrists to recommend to take this supplement with stimulant medication, especially with children, because, you know what I mean? You're giving a stimulant to a kid, they're playing, going crazy, and their heart rate's going up. Not exactly the most safe of things, so I definitely believe coenzyme 10 should be advocated for, and should be, given, or not given, but should be advised for, the client to go and get that, because it sucks. When I first started taking stimulant medication, the first week when I got diagnosed, I remember I was out skating with two of my friends at one of the universities, and I remember after skating for a while, you kind of lose your breath a little bit. I remember my chest felt this immense pressure I'd never felt before. And then I read about that, and that stimulant medication can cause that. So I read about something to counteract that, and went on a lot of ADHD forums and saw that CoQ10 was advised, and got it the next day, and went skating again and went running, no problem this time. So highly recommend. Another thing you're going to want to take is a multivitamin. Oh no, a multivitamin? I heard they don't work. Well, there's a lot of skepticism around multivitamins and whether all the nutrients and whatnot are actually coming through them, especially the way they're compacted. Let me tell you something. When I don't take a multivitamin and I take my supplements and medication, I feel a huge negative difference. So I don't care what those people say. I'm going to take my multivitamin. And I would recommend a sustained release multivitamin that has antioxidants. The one I take is one from Trader Joe's. Gets the job done. Another multivitamin I take, particularly because of the more unique vitamins it brings up, is an adult organic multivitamin. I notice a huge difference when I don't take this one as well. If I take one multivitamin and don't take the other, I don't feel as good. So that's just me. Might not be you. Might seem a little overkill to some people, but to me it's not. It's something I have to get. And being a big fan of coconut oil, besides taking MCT oil, I also take coconut oil. Science in general has come across so much good research in detailing why coconut oil is so essential for the brain and the body. Click on the link and it'll talk about it and tell you why it's really helpful. There's dozens of articles out there about that. So I highly recommend you add it to your nootropic stack. So, now that I've helped you come up with your own nootropic stack, I hope you can acquire some of these supplements and, add them to your regimen. You don't have to get all of them. You can start out with some. And you can also look for different alternatives too, because some of these supplements are not going to work for you guys. They're not going to work for everybody. I had to do a grip load of trial and error until I found supplements that worked out for my particular issues. Now, a lot of us with ADHD got a lot of the same problems, but our genetics and biology is, it's different to an extent. So what you want to do is when one supplement doesn't work, don't give up. It might be that the dosage, might be the amount of milligrams, might be too high or might be too low. It might cause a lot of side effects, or it might not cause any effect at all. So you have to either increase or decrease the dosage of the supplement. And if you just get negative results going either way with that supplement, well then I would advise you to look for a different supplement that does what the previous supplement you're trying does. Because there's other supplements that work with dopamine and norepinephrine as well. Let's say that N-acetyltyrosine, you're taking it to try to boost your dopamine and norepinephrine and it doesn't work with your body. Well then, go and find another supplement that also works with dopamine and norepinephrine. A good alternative I'll recommend is if L-tryptophan doesn't seem to work for you, you can always switch to L-theanine. L-theanine comes in, the most common one I've seen is 100 milligrams. But if that's too little for you, they go up to around 300 milligrams for what I've seen. So there's definitely other alternatives. If you're wondering, is it okay to take all these at the same time? As long as the supplements that you're taking do not mimic in such a huge manner. For example, let's say you take L-tryptophan, right? You want to increase serotonin. You're not going to want to take another supplement in the same time frame that's going to increase that same neurotransmitter you're trying to increase. So if you take L-tryptophan and then like 5 minutes later, an hour later, you take L-theanine, that's not good. You're really increasing serotonin in that regard. So you want to be very mindful. You're probably going to ask yourself, especially for those sticklers that are going to, probably look for some of the details of what I've said. And it's fine. But they're going to be like, well, I've noticed that there's an increase in dopamine and serotonin and vitamin B12. Isn't that going to be dangerous if you do that with N-acetyltyrosine and L-tryptophan? And, it's such a small level of it that I would say no. Because it hasn't happened to me, and from the research I have read, it doesn't do anything. So trust your body, trust your gut, and trust overall how you feel. If one of these supplements doesn't go with you, try to alter the dosage, and if not, move on to another supplement. And unfortunately, I have a whole fat cabinet full of all the reject supplements that didn't work out for me. But guess what, folks? It's your life. You're going to want to find the best thing for you. And I don't recommend any of that cheap crap either. Don't put cheap stuff into your body. You want to get good, reliable, organic supplements. The company I favor is Gero Formulas. Great company, great reputation, and I've tried a lot of supplements for that company, and every one of the supplements I've gotten from them has always come through and been of help to me. So, highly recommend that company. And there's other good companies too, like Now Foods is another good company. Sometimes Source Naturals also has good products. The company On It is really good for the MCT oil, and so forth. Once you click the link, you'll be able to see all the details and hoopla I've been talking about over here. So, I hope it's been of great help. Supplements are of great help whether you're taking or not taking stimulant medication. And what you can do is that if you have a kid in elementary school and you're a little concerned about giving them stimulant medication, you can have them start off with supplements, and then once they go through puberty, then I think is when stimulant medication would be of much help, along with supplements. But if you want to wait off a little bit and you're a little concerned about supplements, and and you're a little concerned about stimulant medication, I would recommend supplements to those people. I recommend supplements to just about anybody. It's time for us to stop looking at supplements like an Eastern pseudo thing. For millions of years, humankind has consumed herbs and plants and spices and all sorts of things out in nature that now we don't really have to go out and look for them. They're sold, and thankfully in little capsules and other, gelatin and all sorts of other things. So they have helped mankind out greatly. And once we as a species realize, as individuals, that we're still people and still need to be active and still need to get the nutrition just like our ancestors did. It's not until we reach that point that we'll be inspired to start trying to improve ourselves. And we ADHD cats, in my opinion, have a bigger connection to our ancestors than neurotypicals do. So don't alarm yourself. These supplements are just different mixes of, of stuff found out in nature. And if you're really concerned, for those of you, because I know some of you ADHD cats are also a bunch of worrywarts. How do I know? Because I got a bunch of friends. You all need to calm the frick down. Anyway, but I understand why you're like that, so it's okay. There's websites out there that talk about different supplement and drug interactions to see if there's any danger. So you can also go to those as well if you're concerned. And if you don't trust me, folks, I'm not selling you snake oil here. I'm just trying to help out the ADHD community. I'm going on to get my PhD and become a clinical psychologist to work with more people with the condition. I want to help out the community and I want to build the knowledge. I want ADHD to be a thing that people are not uncertain of and are ignorant of. I want people in schools and institutions to know the common issues of ADHD and the details that come with that, so we can essentially alter what we need to alter. So people, not only with ADHD, but people with other cognitive conditions, can thrive in life. There is so much still to study of mental health, and mental health is a thing to me that is crucial of importance. We need to for sure help ourselves out in terms of mental health. Mental health is no joke. Your life, your subjective reality, your view of life and how you live life, it's yours. And if you got the help and options out there to help you out, heck man, get up. Get up and take the bull by the horns. Excuse the cliche saying, but you can do it. I know a lot of you ADHD guys need that kick in the rear end to just get going with something. Well, here I am, slick. I'm pushing you to do it. Go out there and do it. If you need to hear that voice telling you to go out there and do it, here's my voice telling you now. Go out there and start living the life that you deserve to live, and more than anything, the life that you should be living. Our life trajectories and paths are all really different. Some of us got it harder than others, okay? But definitely supplements can make it a lot easier on all of us. And the ADHD community is a community very special to my heart. Very special to me just because something I've struggled with, and a lot of family members and friends I know something they struggle with as well. So yeah, man, we got to get the information out there. We got to help the community thrive and move forward. So that's it, comrades. This is Wilhelm, over and out.